بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. In the Quran we find that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is speaking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. He said, they ask you with regard to alcohol or in general intoxicants, but here literally alcohol, and the matter of casting lots or gambling. And then Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala commands the Prophet to say, قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ. In both of these matters, undertakings, and both of these issues and these things, there's great sin. وَمَنَافِعٌ لِلنَّاسِ, and benefit for the people. So here Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is acknowledging that there is benefit in the matter of alcohol and in the matter of gambling, but within them lies sin. This ayah is a great ayah with regard to understanding matters as they should be understood. Here, both the sin and the benefit is acknowledged. But at the same time, we begin to see that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala negates the benefit from the angle that the harm outweighs the benefit, the sin outweighs the benefit. In the statement that إثمهما akbar, that they're not looked at just as one group. Each one has its own sin, and each of those categories, the category of alcohol and the category of gambling, is mentioned that their sin is greater min naf'ihima, than their benefit. So it's very interesting the way the Quran here separates between the two, and then combines the benefit that they have as one idea. These two things, right? Their harm is greater than their benefit. And there's a play in the Arabic language that's not so easy to bring out in the English, in the way that it categorizes in groups the ideas. But the point being is that the Quran initially is acknowledging that in the matter of alcohol, intoxicants, there's benefit, but the harm is greater. And the same thing when it comes to gambling and everything which aligns or falls under that category of gambling, everything which falls under the category of intoxicants, including drugs and so on and so forth. Later on, we find in the Quran that a full prohibition will come for the matter, but here is being acknowledged that there has to be consideration. We have to think about the harm and benefit. And it's clear that there's benefit. Certain things may, especially when it comes to intoxicants, whether it's drink or whether it's getting high on some sort of drug, we may find that it may alleviate us in the moment. But studies have proven on multiple levels that the harm is greater. So what's the logic of the Quran? The logic of the Quran is that the Quran wants us not only to not drink or not get high or not gamble. The Quran wants us to understand ourselves. And part of that understanding ourselves is knowing what's in our interests, knowing what is in our interests. How many situations have followed, ensued? How many people have found themselves in problems and in dilemmas due to their behavior as a consequence of their drinking? But yet, we still keep pushing the idea that the alleviation that it provides in the moment is something greater that should be pursued than staying away from it. So how many people on highways have died, or streets have died, due to an intoxicated driver? How many people have fallen to addiction? How much liver damage has been caused? Or even the same thing when it comes to the issue of the intoxication that comes from smoking certain things and so on and so forth. How much damage is caused at a national level when it comes to health and so on and so forth? How much psychological problems do we encounter, or deterioration do we see in people? So when the Quran is speaking here, it's speaking as a rule to our benefit, and is calling us to utilize that system of weighing harm and benefit. But we're in a time period where that type of thinking is out the door, because there's no concept of the hereafter. You know how some people say we're all going to die anyway, so we might as well go out with a bang. That's the idea that people have in mind. And that idea is only supportable, is only followable, is only considered legitimate if you don't consider that there's an unseen dimension, that there's consequences for your actions, that we're responsible, that we have to testify to Allah for what it is that we do. And so in the beginning of the da'wah, in the beginning of the revelation of the Quran, in the Meccan period, and in early Medina period, when the Muslims went to Medina, there's this idea of instilling in the Muslims, like, think, like, get out of your culture, get out of your feelings, get out of what you think and your experiences, and put some thought to your life. How have these things benefited you in your life? How have they benefited you in your life? And so the Quran is instilling that thinking in our mindset of weighing harm and benefit, acknowledging that in certain situations which are problematic, there may be benefit. You understand what I'm saying? But the harm outweighs. Yes, in the moment, gambling, throwing dice, whatever it may be that falls into the category of gambling, they may bring you some benefit. But when we look at the wastage of money, when we look at the concept of addiction, when we look at what happens, whether legal or illegal, as a consequence to these things, really, is it something that is generating money for the benefit of the whole, or is it generating money for the benefit of the few? There's a lot of things that come along with that. And so sometimes, we are willing to take the chance because of what we see to be the benefit. And how many people, like I mentioned before, have gotten into bad situations when it comes to alcohol? How many people drink and they act silly and stupid, and they begin to violate their own dignity? They begin to open themselves up to illicit sexual relationships, which cause them damage. You know what I'm saying? And so these are things that we have to consider, people, like weighing harm and benefit. And unfortunately, it's hard to convince people in this regard, because people have to see it for themselves. They have to put that cap on. They have to put that mind on of weighing harm and benefit for themselves, but not only in this world, but in their spiritual dimension, not only in the world of what they see and the here and now, but also in the spiritual dimension and what comes after, in the hereafter. So the Quran it has a certain type of ethics that is instilling in us. It's not just the issue of right or wrong. Is the Quran is telling us, acknowledge where there's good, but there's going to be some moral, complicated situations in which you're going to have to weigh harm and benefit, and there's a whole procedure and a process of that. You understand what I'm saying? Protecting ourselves from harm comes before pursuing our benefit. And so when we look at that regard, we have to think about that. Why is it that protecting ourselves from harm takes the precedent to entertaining benefit or pursuing our benefit? Why do we have to protect ourselves from that which harms us versus pursuing that which may be a good. Because it may be the case that that which is harmful can be more destructive than the benefit that we get. You may eat candy and you may be pre-diabetic or diabetic, or you may be in a situation where you're destroying your teeth. Now, in the moment, the candy may give you a soothing sensation and feeling, but then it deteriorates your health. And it's the same thing with a lot of other issues, or it may even cause you to go overboard with diabetes, or it may cause you other types of harm. That's just in the basics of life. You know what I'm saying? That's just in the basics of life, and we can extend that to other areas of life. So the Quran wants us to be those types of Muslims which are weighing harm and benefit and knowing what's in our interest, and also protecting ourselves from those things which will open the door to destroy us. And that's where, unfortunately, many of us were failing, because we don't see that there's certain steps that if we take them, they open the door to destruction for us on multiple levels. And sure, not everything in life is going to be just, the issue of the world is all haram, so we have to protect. We're not talking about that type of logic, but we're talking about really being sensitive and really thinking about our relationships, our health, our wealth, our families. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about how it is that we destroy ourselves in these regards with the actions that we take. In the specific, the Quran is mentioning these two issues, the issues of intoxicants and the issue of gambling, and everything that comes under that regard. And so we have to think, people, because this is a time period where, in the absence of jobs, casinos come in to neighborhoods and destroy whole economies and people, and all the levels of addiction that come along that, and they throw in alcohol to that. And this is a time period where marijuana has become generally accepted, even though there's studies that talk about how it contributes to schizophrenia and all kinds of things. And not only marijuana, and so on and so forth, other things as well. And so there's tons of gambling that comes into play. So with our lives and our decisions, and our actions. And so we have to really think about what's in our interest. I can't do anything other than ask you to reflect. There's no way to force me or you, to pursue what's beneficial for us. But we have to be in that state of mind where we're encouraging each other to what's good, so that we program our thinking to take us to what's better, because this is where we're failing, in that our thinking is justifying what our desire may want, and our desire is very undisciplined. And so on two fronts, we find ourselves jacked up. That's the level of thinking, and that's the level of desire. And unless we get those two things under some sort of discipline, we're going to fail ourselves almost every time. We're going to fail ourselves. We're going to make decisions that are going to cause us harm, because after all, part of benefiting in life, part of growth in life, is a matter of discipline. Assalamu alaikum.